If you change, everything changes. But why is it so hard to believe that when you're in the middle of yet another hurtful relationship? When you look around and see the same patterns repeating endlessly, the same destructive arguments, the same devastating disappointments. When you ask yourself for the 1,000th time, with a broken heart, what is wrong with me? I know exactly how you feel right now. You've tried absolutely everything within your power. You've read dozens of relationship books, invested in expensive therapy, attended self-help workshops, solemnly promised yourself that this time would be different. But then it happens again, like a horror movie that never ends. He ignores you the same way the last one did. She criticizes you with the same cruel words your mother always did. You feel small, invisible, unappreciated, like you're completely transparent to the entire world. And then comes that familiar, destructive voice in your head, whispering poison. Maybe I really don't deserve to be truly loved. Maybe I am the problem in every relationship. Maybe I'm destined to live on crumbs of affection for the rest of my life. Louise Hay, the extraordinary woman who transformed millions of lives around the world with her revolutionary discoveries about the connection between mind and emotional healing, said something that might shock you deeply. Nothing is fundamentally wrong with you. In fact, everything is working with mathematical perfection. Your relationships are doing exactly what they should be doing. They're showing you, like a merciless but necessary mirror, exactly what needs to be healed and transformed within you. This is called the law of the mirror, and today you'll understand how it really works, why you've consistently attracted the people who hurt you the most, and how to change it once and for all to create extraordinary relationships. Let me tell you the true story of Emily, one of my followers who wrote to me a few months ago, completely desperate and on the brink of an emotional breakdown. 38 years old, 4 serious and intense relationships, all ending in the same, absolutely devastating way. She gave entirely of herself, completely erased herself, did absolutely everything to please and satisfy, and they simply vanished from her life without satisfactory explanation, final fight, or emotional closure. They simply disappeared like ghosts, as if she had never existed in their lives. Emily was convinced she was unlucky in love, that she always chose the wrong men, that all men were inherently emotionally unavailable. She believed she had some invisible, cursed mark on her forehead that silently screamed, "Feel free to hurt me." But when she discovered the law of the mirror and began rigorously applying what I'm going to teach you, in the next few minutes, literally, everything changed radically and permanently. Today she is happily married to a man who values her every day, constantly seeks her out, and makes it a point to show the world how precious and important she is to him. What changed dramatically in Emily's life? Emily changed herself first, and when she transformed internally, the mirror of her relationships automatically transformed externally. You need to understand a fundamental truth. Every human relationship is a perfect and precise mirror. It doesn't matter if it's with your romantic partner, your overbearing and critical mother, your toxic and manipulative boss, your friend who subtly undermines you. Every person who enters your life is reflecting with surgical precision some specific part of you that you haven't yet seen clearly, don't fully accept, or more importantly, haven't definitively healed. Louise Hay discovered this truth in the most painful and traumatic way possible. She was brutally raped at the age of 5 by a neighbor, grew up in a deeply abusive and dysfunctional home, was forced to leave school early, ran away from home as a teenager to escape domestic hell. She spent decades feeling fundamentally dirty, worthless, deserving only of any pathetic crumb of love she could receive from someone. And guess what kind of men she consistently attracted for decades of her adult life? Men who treated her exactly how she treated herself internally, without respect, without genuine care, without true and unconditional love. She married a wealthy and successful businessman who essentially saw her as a beautiful trophy to display at social events. When he coldly abandoned her for a younger, more attractive woman, Louise could have easily fallen into a deep depression, could have victimized herself for the rest of her life, could have bitterly blamed the entire world for her pain. But she did something completely different and courageous. She decided to bravely delve into the pain instead of running away from it. And it was there, at the bottom of the darkest well of her existence, that she discovered something absolutely revolutionary that would forever change not only her own life, but the lives of millions of people around the planet. We don't create toxic and destructive relationships because we are fundamentally toxic people. We create toxic relationships because we carry deep and unhealed emotional wounds that desperately need to be healed. And the universe, in its infinite and compassionate wisdom, sends us exactly the right people who will painfully touch these specific wounds, not to cruelly punish us, not out of cosmic sadism, but to give us the sacred opportunity to finally heal what has been broken and bleeding inside us for so long. Think now about your last great romantic disappointment, the one that really shattered you. Do you remember exactly how you felt in those moments? Completely rejected, totally abandoned, absolutely invisible, unseen and unrecognized, unvalued and disrespected, as if you had desperately cried out for love and no one had heard your plea? Now answer me with complete honesty. Have you ever felt exactly like this before? Long before you met this specific person? Probably in your most vulnerable childhood. Probably with your own parents. Probably at some devastating moment in your life where you were just a small, vulnerable, and completely defenseless child, and someone who should have protected and loved you unconditionally made you feel that you weren't good enough, that you didn't really matter, that you were just an inconvenient burden. That original emotional wound, never fully healed. It lingers, buried deep within your subconscious, pulsating, acting like a powerful, invisible magnet, emitting a specific, constant energetic frequency. And you know what happens because of this? You unconsciously attract people who make you feel exactly how you felt in that terrible moment of original abandonment and rejection. Why? Because your unconscious mind is desperately trying to recreate the original traumatic situation, so you can finally, once and for all, completely resolve it and heal it definitively. The devastating problem is that most people simply don't understand this deep psychological dynamic. They get completely caught in the superficial, immediate drama, the emotional pain of the present moment, drowning in destructive guilt and toxic resentment. They desperately try to change the other person, obsessively control the relationship, force a different outcome using the same emotional strategies that have never worked in their entire lives. But Louise Hay discovered a far more powerful, elegant, and definitive way to completely break this infernal cycle of self-destructive repetition. First, you need to understand with crystal clarity that the law of the mirror isn't something esoteric, mystical, or fanciful. It's profoundly neurological, scientific, and measurable. Your unconscious mind actively processes more than 11 million complex pieces of information per second. Your conscious mind can process only 40 pieces of information per second. This mathematically means that 99.9% of all the decisions you make in your relationships are based on information you don't even consciously know you're receiving and processing. And all this unconscious and subliminal information comes directly, unfiltered, from your unhealed and unresolved emotional wounds. It comes from your limiting and destructive beliefs about yourself, formed and crystallized during your vulnerable childhood. It comes from the specific emotional energy you've unconsciously carried since you were a small child and had absolutely no power to defend or protect yourself. When you carry a deep wound of emotional abandonment, you automatically emit a constant energetic frequency of, "I will inevitably be rejected. I better protect myself emotionally right now." When you have a wound of not feeling seen or recognized, you emit a frequency of, "I'm simply not important enough to deserve genuine attention." When you have a wound of not feeling truly loved, you emit a frequency of, "I need to desperately prove my worth to deserve a few crumbs of affection." And the people around you pick up on these specific energetic frequencies. Not consciously, of course, but on a deep, subliminal, and instinctive level. And they respond automatically, like programmed robots, exactly according to the emotional frequency you're constantly emitting. Louise used to say something that completely changed her life and can change yours too. You don't attract what you consciously want. You don't attract what you logically deserve. You attract exactly and precisely what you are energetically in this moment. But here's the part that will liberate you forever. You are not your temporary wounds. You are not your conditioned fears. You are not your limiting beliefs inherited from a dysfunctional childhood. These things are temporarily housed within you, but they are absolutely not your true divine essence. And when you understand this deeply and viscerally, when you truly embody this revolutionary truth in the core of your being, absolutely everything in your relationships magically transforms. Let me give you a practical and transformative example that will completely change your perspective. Have you ever noticed how some women seem to have an almost magical ease in attracting men who treat them like true queens? Not necessarily the most physically beautiful, the most academically intelligent, or the most professionally successful, but those who possess a completely different and magnetic energy, a solid and unshakable energy of, "I know exactly who I am. I know precisely my worth, and I simply will not accept less than that under any circumstances." This powerful energy isn't superficial arrogance, empty prepotency, or disguised narcissism. It's genuine, deep, and absolutely unshakable self-esteem. It's self-respect that naturally flows from the inside out. It's the extraordinarily rare ability to love yourself truly and unconditionally, wounds and all, without desperately needing anyone's approval or validation to feel complete and whole. And when you consistently emit this high frequency of authentic and unwavering self-love, you automatically, like a powerful magnet, attract people who also vibrate at that same high and healthy frequency. People who genuinely know how to truly love. People who naturally know how to respect and value others. Emotionally mature people who don't need to diminish you to feel important or superior. Louise Hay called this transformative process complete energetic reprogramming, and she developed a specific, tested, and extraordinarily powerful technique to make this transformation happen in practice. A revolutionary technique that she personally used to heal her own terminal cancer diagnosed by doctors, to completely transform all her toxic relationships, and to consciously create the extraordinary and abundant life she always dreamed of having. But before I reveal to you exactly this technique that has changed the lives of millions of people, you need to understand with absolute clarity a fundamental truth that may be initially uncomfortable. The mirror of relationships never, ever, under any circumstances, lies to you. It may be painful, it may be inconvenient, it may be frightening and challenging, but it never lies. If you are consistently attracting people who systematically ignore you, look courageously at how you ignore yourself daily. If you are constantly attracting people who destructively criticize you, honestly examine how you internally criticize yourself all the time. If you are always attracting people who don't value or recognize you, investigate deeply how you don't value or recognize yourself. And here's something crucial that needs to be crystal clear. This is absolutely not your fault in the sense of self-flagellation. This absolutely doesn't mean you consciously deserve mistreatment or disrespect. What it means is that you have a sacred and unique opportunity to definitively break a self-destructive pattern, a pattern that may have been circulating in your family for generations. Take Carla, the woman I told you about in the first part. She finally understood this profound dynamic. She realized with painful clarity that she always attracted emotionally unavailable and distant men because she herself was emotionally unavailable to herself. She was constantly chasing external validation, desperately trying to obsessively prove her worth to others, automatically putting everyone else's needs before her own, basic needs. When she courageously started treating herself with the same care, affection, and respect she naturally offered to everyone else. When she began to validate herself internally instead of seeking external validation, when she finally started loving herself genuinely and unconditionally, the type of man she magnetically attracted changed radically and completely. It wasn't inexplicable magic. It was scientific neuroplasticity in action. It was conscious, energetic reprogramming. It was the law of the mirror, working powerfully in the opposite and beneficial direction. Now, let me explain exactly how this works in your brain, scientifically and practically. When you carry a deep, unhealed emotional wound, it automatically creates what neuroscientists technically call confirmation bias. Your brain literally searches for and selects evidence that confirms and validates that specific wound, completely ignoring all evidence that contradicts it. If you unconsciously believe you don't deserve true love, your brain will automatically focus obsessively on signs of rejection, completely ignoring all signs of acceptance and affection. If you deeply believe you will inevitably be abandoned, your brain will interpret any normal distance as definitive abandonment. Even when that's not what's happening in reality, it's exactly as if you're wearing dark glasses permanently to see the emotional world. Everything automatically becomes darker, gloomier, more threatening, and more dangerous. And you don't even consciously realize you're wearing these reality-distorting glasses. Louise Hay understood geniusly that to definitively change the mirror of relationships, she first needed to take off those distorting glasses. She needed to consciously reprogram the limiting and destructive beliefs that were filtering and distorting her emotional reality. And here's what's absolutely incredible and transformative. When you deliberately change your internal programming, you literally change your external reality automatically. Not because you're trying to control or manipulate others, but because you're emitting a completely different, elevated, and magnetic energy. And people naturally respond to this new, transformed energy. Think of it this way. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt that something was strange or heavy in the atmosphere? Even without anyone saying anything, you instantly picked up the tension, discomfort, or negativity in the air. That's pure energy in action. That's vibrational frequency being transmitted and received. And you're emitting your specific frequency 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, influencing everyone around you. If your predominant frequency is emotional neediness, you automatically attract people who consciously take advantage of that neediness. If your frequency is fear of abandonment, you attract people who confirm and validate those fears. If your frequency is genuine self-love and self-respect, you attract people who naturally recognize, respect, and celebrate that love. Louise discovered through years of experimentation that there are 3 fundamental steps to definitively change your vibrational frequency. First, you need to accurately identify the original emotional wound that is creating the destructive pattern in relationships. Second, you need to compassionately forgive that wound and yourself for carrying it for so long. Third, you need to consciously reprogram the limiting belief with a personal power affirmation. But pay attention, it's not just any superficial affirmation you find on the internet. It has to be a specific affirmation that your deep unconscious genuinely accepts and incorporates. It has to be an affirmation that authentically resonates with your deepest and most sacred truth. And here's the revolutionary secret that Louise discovered through decades of work. The most powerful and transformative affirmation is not about what you want to attract externally. It's about who you truly already are at the core of your being. She used to say daily, "I am worthy of love not because someone loves me, not because I conquer love, but simply because I exist as a divine being." This was the specific affirmation that radically changed everything for her. And it was the exact same affirmation that completely transformed Carla's life as well. Because when you finally understand deep down in your soul that your worth is intrinsic and doesn't depend on anyone, when you genuinely understand that you are worthy of love simply for existing as a human being, when you viscerally understand that you are a being of light temporarily having a human experience, absolutely everything transforms. Your posture automatically changes. Your voice takes on a different tone. Your emotional energy completely transforms. And when your energy changes, the mirror of relationships inevitably changes as well. But there's something important you need to know about this transformation process. It's not instantaneous like movie magic, and it's not always easy or comfortable at first. Sometimes when you courageously begin to change and value yourself, the people around you may strongly resist. They are used to and comfortable with the old version of you. They may unconsciously try to pull you back into the old, familiar pattern. Louise called this the sacred test of the universe. She explained that when you decide to really change, when you authentically commit to your transformation, the universe inevitably tests you to see if you are truly committed to the change, or if you will give up at the first difficulty. And it is at this crucial moment that most people, unfortunately, give up. It is at this point that they run back to the old destructive pattern, to the familiar comfort zone, to the known suffering that at least is predictable. But if you bravely resist the test, if you remain steadfast in your new, high frequency, if you continue to genuinely love yourself even when others don't understand or resist, something truly magical and transformative happens. The mirror gradually begins to reflect your new, transformed energy. People who vibrate at your new, high frequency begin to appear magnetically in your life, and people who no longer vibrate harmoniously with you naturally drift away without drama. It's not cruelty or rejection. It's simply natural, energetic alignment. It's the law of the mirror working powerfully for your highest good. Now, I'm going to teach you the specific technique that Louise Hay developed and perfected to completely reprogram the mirror of your relationships. A technique she affectionately called sacred mirror work. It's seemingly simple, but extraordinarily powerful when applied with consistency and sincerity. First, you'll need a mirror where you can clearly see your eyes. It could be your bathroom mirror. It could be a hand mirror. The size doesn't matter. What's important is that you can maintain direct eye contact with yourself. Second, you'll need genuine emotional courage, because what you're going to do will directly confront all the critical and destructive inner voices that have been telling you for years that you're not enough, that you don't deserve, that you can't be loved. Louise discovered this technique when she was bravely battling the cancer that doctors said would kill her. She realized with shock that for decades she had looked in the mirror and seen only flaws, only what was wrong, only what desperately needed to be fixed or hidden. And she had a profound revelation. As long as she couldn't look at herself with genuine love and acceptance, no one else in the world would be able to look at her that way either. So she courageously began doing the mirror exercise every day, without exception. And that's exactly how she healed. Not only from the physical cancer, but from decades of self-rejection and emotional self-sabotage. Here's how it works in practice. First step, look directly into your own eyes in the mirror and sincerely say, "Hi, darling." Just that for a few moments. "Hi, darling." And carefully observe what happens in your body and your emotions. Notice if you can naturally maintain eye contact or if you automatically look away. Notice if you feel like crying, nervously laughing, or running away. Don't judge anything you're feeling. Just observe with curiosity and compassion. Louise used to say that the sacred mirror never lies. It shows you exactly where you are at this moment in your journey of self-love. If you can't even say, "Hi, darling," to yourself without discomfort, imagine the kind of energy you're unconsciously emitting to the world. Imagine how impossible it is for someone to love you deeply if you can't even greet yourself with basic affection. Second step, still maintaining direct eye contact, you're going to say with intention, "I see you completely." And here's the secret. You need to really see beyond the surface. See the courageous woman behind the fears. See the wounded child who needs care and protection. See the resilient warrior who has survived absolutely everything up to now. See the divine goddess that you truly are at the core of your being. Louise used to say, when you really see yourself with the eyes of your soul, you finally understand that you've always been worthy of love from the moment you were born. Third step, you're going to say with conviction, "I accept you exactly as you are right now, not as you could be in the future, not as you should be according to others, as you are now, at this very moment, with your human imperfections, with your wounds in the process of healing, with your fears and insecurities. Because true and transformative love is never conditional, and this is where most people get emotionally stuck. They can say the words mechanically, but they can't genuinely feel them. They can make the physical movement, but they can't open their hearts to themselves. If this happens to you, don't give up in any way. Louise took entire months to be able to do this exercise without crying compulsively. She explained that each tear was an old wound finally being healed and released. Fourth step, you're going to say with love, "I love you unconditionally," and you're going to repeat as many times as necessary until these sacred words genuinely come from your heart, not just mechanically from your mouth. Louise discovered that when you finally manage to truly love yourself, when you can look in the mirror and feel genuine compassion and tenderness for yourself, something absolutely incredible and transformative happens automatically with all your relationships. You completely stop accepting emotional crumbs. You stop constantly apologizing for existing. You stop desperately trying to prove your worth to anyone because you finally know internally what your real worth is. And when you genuinely know your worth, you automatically attract people who also know and recognize that worth. You attract people who don't need to diminish you to feel great. You attract people who naturally celebrate your light instead of trying to extinguish it out of envy or insecurity.